Hello and welcome to the AR-15 podcast. This podcast is brought to you by Primary Arms. Primary Arms seeks to provide the best shopping experience for everything firearms, with over 13,000 products from over 400 top brands. Primary Arms carries a complete selection of rifles, handguns, firearms parts, shooting gear, apparel, and more. Every order comes with a commitment to superior service, backed by fast shipping and an expert support team. Primary Arms, serving freedom since 2008. Find out more at frn.deals/PA. Hello and welcome to the AR-15 podcast. This podcast is for you if you just bought your first rifle or if you've been building them for years. There is something we can all do to take our black rifle to the next level. My name is Nick Dooley. I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Garth Hofer. How are we doing today, bud?
Oh, I'm good. I wish it would stop raining here. We have one half section of flowers left. It's supposed to snow on Friday. I have plans of going to Rapid City and Deadwood. So there's just a whole bunch of mixture going on. I'm ready to go work, but I can't because I said it was raining. So figured, I'd jump on here. We could shoot a podcast out because I know there's a couple fans who've been going, hey, where you guys at? Hey, so here we are. We're here.
Yep, first we were waiting for me to get my schedule figured out, and then right as we got that done, we had to jump into harvest. So
yeah, and it's been drug out. It's been long. I am ready for it to be over. Like it needs to be done, and hopefully by tomorrow afternoon it will be, and then we can get back to a little bit of normalcy. So.
Well, that works. You been doing anything fun past couple weeks?
Not really. I've been searching a lot because I've been looking at my safe, and of course I need to reorganize a few things, and been looking at a lot of Cerakote options, and I think I'm gonna get a hold of the Cerakote chick here in the next week or so because I've got a couple ideas. I showed you and Paul some the other day, and I think that that Bushlight AR would be pretty sweet, if you know what I mean.
That would be definitely something different.
So yeah, get that done, and a couple other things. But as far as training goes or buying anything new, no, it just hasn't happened. It's been pretty much work in church, and by that I mean just work straight up. So yeah.
Right on. Well, you brought up training, and our training topic this week falls right in with our main topic. And this is something I know, Garth, you and I have talked about before and have had to be reminded of and things like that at competitions. Mechanical offset. Now, mechanical offset might not sound like a real training drill or anything like that, but it really is. So you remember what we're talking about with that, right?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, sure.
Words and things.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sure. Yes.
Yep. So this isn't really a drill, but a skill to learn and understand, and that is knowing your AR's mechanical offset. And this is something that some people have a real issue with understanding, specifically with red dots, because there's most at red dots are which we'll get into later in the show when they talk about parallax and target focus shooting and things of that nature. But when you're focusing on the target and bringing that red dot up, if you're shooting at something close, you have to remember that the center point of that optic is something like 2.5 inches above the bore of your rifle. So if you're shooting at, say, a 7-meter target and you just put the dot where you want the bullets to go, they'll still come out like, I don't know, an inch low, inch or two, especially if it's something even closer, because of that mechanical offset. So, like, if you zero at 25 meters, that means that's where the dots, your optic's point of aim and your rifle's point of impact are the same at 25 meters. But that point of impact and point of aim are going to have a definite shift at closer than 10 meters.
Yeah, so when you shoot A zone at the head, you're probably going to hit C zone in the neck. I mean,
yeah, the old B zone or something like that.
Yep.
Yep, it's one of those when you're aiming here, you're going to shoot somewhere down here.
I mean, it's still going to be effective, but
yeah, no, that's just one of those, a great training tip to know and understand is that if you are looking at doing this for close range stuff, knowing and understanding your mechanical offset is incredibly important. And that's one of those where it's especially so in the case of red dots, because red dots are typically used for close quarters environments.
This is true. I really was never a fan of the red dot for many different reasons, mostly the battery life issue. But after doing competition this year, I've really grown fond of them, and I've been playing with the idea of maybe adding a few more. And so I know there's a few guys that are going to be listening to this going, finally, you're talking about something I want to hear. Like, just, I know one guy in particular who's been on my case for weeks. And so hopefully this episode answers a few of his questions.
Yep. So obviously, if you didn't know by the show title, we're talking about red dots this week.
Yeah.
And, before we do that, is there something else we should talk about, Garth?
We probably should. I have them in my hand right now. Dude, we got hooked up by Patriot Patch Company. Well, you haven't seen it, obviously. But I got a big box in the mail that I was not expecting. And I guess sometimes it just pays to be sponsored. So, Jake sent us over a whole goodie bag and basket of stuff. Said Merry Christmas with tin signs and mouse pads and patches. And then, of course, two of my favorite things he sent, which are on the website. You should check them out. He has magnetic backings so you can hang your patches on your safe. So I've now have a patch wall on my safe as well. Oh, and since it's Christmas time, this is actually one of my favorite ones. I can't wait to hang it on my tree. Yeah, I have a 4-foot tree. It's sweet. And it is an actual ornament, not so fragile. And I love this one. This is and it's in a patch form too, and it's actually one of my favorite all-time patches. And so it is a fantastic little design. This is the quality work you guys will get if you buy from Jake. So go check them out at patriotpatch.co.
Yep, and that is great. So having that, again, we love working with Patriot Patch Company, and especially Jake. Everyone over there is great people. Be sure to check them out at Patriot Patch, patriotpatch.co. And so with that, we're going to bump on into our main topic, which I know that Garth has been tirelessly doing show prep for.
I have done so much show prep. And here it is. You ready for this? If you put a battery in and turn it on, it lights up red. And your turn.
So, red dots have been around for a long time. Actually, while we're doing this, I'm going to do one of the things that I know my loving wife loves.
Yeah.
And that is when I type and do things looking at the computer screen, because she says I look very distracted because my eyes are going 100 places.
Mm-hmm.
But what we're going to do is I'm going to pull up the OG, the original, the very first red dot.
The very first. There is a first.
There is a first.
Who made the very first?
So, well, technically, and good morning, Peter. And technically, there was one that kind of worked earlier that was like I believe True Glow tried to make it, and it was like a incandescent bulb light gathering tube that didn't. Everybody said it just didn't work. So actually, the original red dot, the one that started it all, is the aim point Electra,
Okay.
or the aim point electronic. So if you look at this here, they still have it up on their website, even though it was under discontinued. And this is the first red dot ever used. It was designed to be used with Weaver scope bases, and it came out in 1975.
That thing is
So,
large.
oh yeah, it was massive and heavy. Like, I think if we go down, we can find the specifications on it, and there was no magnification. It was a 1x, just like everything else, and weighed in at, I want to say, almost 2 pounds.
Holy cats! But no, that's a qualification of being a red dot.
Or
There is no
yeah,
magnification, correct?
generally yes. So yeah, okay. The site with the batteries was 349 grams. Now I don't know how many grams go into a pound. I
I
can tell you how
had to
many.
look it up because I have the internets in my hand too.
I can tell you how many grains go into a pound, because that answers 7,000. Because we do things in twelfths here. Because there's two types of countries in the world: ones that use the metric system and ones that have gone to the moon.
453 grams go into 1 pound.
Okay, so that was incorrect. It was just shy of a pound. But for a red dot, weighing 1 pound was a lot.
That's a lot. Yeah.
So one thing that we should talk about here is, after we just got started, that they kind of came out or not kind of came out. They came out in 1975, and that's when they really first became a viable option, or we'll say that, or when they started being mass produced. So a red dot, we should probably talk about what that is, because there's people that are going to go, well, I use a red dot. Well, maybe not. So the red dots we're talking about are not holographic sites. They're not lasers, and they're not prism sites.
Now, prism we get because we've touched on before, but maybe for those who are interested, you could give the definition of between the red dot and holographic.
Yep. So red dot, the way the red dots work is they'll have a piece of glass on each end of the it's a glass tube similar to a regular scope, and then on one side of them they will have a light emitting diode that will shine up and put a dot on the glass, and then you will use your left and right limiters and up and down, so for traverse and elevation, to move that and create a zero, so it'll lock it in place, and then you'll have a consistent zero. And that red dot is reflected up onto the glass, and it works much like a second focal plane scope. So we'll talk about focal planes and stuff like that, and I might lose some people in the middle of this, but I'm not trying to. The reason why it's important to understand that a red dot works like a second focal plane scope is for when we talk about magnifiers. So if you put a magnifier behind a red dot, like the 3-power magnifier that I have, and you flip it over behind a red dot, your red dot goes from, like, if you have a 3 MOA red dot, you now have a 9 MOA red dot, because it just blows it up. It makes it that much bigger. Now, a holographic site is different, because the holographic site has an image that is projected onto a piece of glass that it isn't refracted, and then when you adjust it, you're adjusting where the image is in the bottom. There's a little bit less to do with it, and when you put they're a first focal plane optic, So when you put a magnifier on them, all of your measurements and detents and like the donut of death for an EOTech all stays true. So you still have a 60 MOA donut with a, or however, I forget what all the measurements are.
Mm-hmm.
But when you flip that magnifier on, then that works. And a
Now-
prism sight is entirely different.
Now, let me ask you a follow-up question on that. When you flip the magnifier over on the red dot, it changes nothing as far as your sight plan, what you've sighted the gun in at, just so people aren't freaked out by that, because you said it changes it from a 3 to a 9. So,
Yep, it just makes your dot bigger.
okay.
The one thing you will have to do if you're using a magnifier is they have adjustments on them, and you adjust that to bring it into the center of the picture. So it's one of those, when you first flip it over, you might be looking through it and your dot will be down here. And then as you look through it, you'll bring it up so that it's right here.
Okay. Just want to get some clarifications out there for people.
Yep. And since this is such a amazing audio podcast and I just did 100% visual thing with my hands, what it is if you're brand new to red dots and magnifiers, and magnifiers might have to be their own show.
Yeah, probably.
Because there's a lot of stuff that goes into it, and it's, as long as the magnifier and the red dot marry up and are the right height together, then you put the magnifier behind it, and then you'll have to adjust because there's space between them. Some red dots don't have that. Like the original Vortex strike fires had a screw-in magnifier that you could put in.
Oh, really?
That was different. And that just screwed in to the back of the eyepiece.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was 2x. So, if you'll excuse me, I have to respond to a message quick.
Which kind of defied the whole point, I guess, of why. I mean, I get magnifiers are neat and stuff like that, but it kind of defies the whole point of having the red dot, because you want close action. If you wanted something for a little farther away, then why not get the prism sight or a low power scope of some sort? But I guess for some common folk, they only have 1 or 2 rifles instead of many. So that's just my 2 cents on it. I guess if you're going to use a red dot, you plan on using it for close quarters, and magnifier is neat, but I'm not Call of Duty here, so
sorry about that. That was work stuff got involved. No, so when you're talking about running a magnifier on a red dot,
mm-hmm.
There is some theory to that. I know that there's a handful of YouTube videos on it out there. Weapon Snatcher did a good video on it, and it was for several years having a red dot with a 3-power magnifier
Mm-hmm.
was kind of the super the ultra cool guy thing to have. Because then you could do, was like, oh no, I can do all my close range stuff, and then I can flip my magnifier and I can still get distance. And now people say that, and I'm like, or we can just put a 1 to 10 LPVO on. And that's where now you're starting to see them all become more of a niche market. You
Mm-hmm.
do still see guys that are running, and especially in the competition world, magnifiers, it's not as common as it used to be, just because if you're going to run, an optic, and you're in a class that'll allow you to have a red dot and a magnifier, well, then you're going to run an LPVO and a little side saddle, RMR.
Yeah.
And just rotate that through, but that was to get faster. It was, in a combat scenario, the whole theory was, okay, yep, we're in and we're doing close work. Oh, there's a little bit further shot. it would allow you to do more than just the one tasking. So, like when you look at that and start reading all of the things about red dots, they are a great tool to be used. And I had a problem with red dots for a long time as well. And my biggest problem with them is I have an astigmatism.
Yeah.
So all red dots kind of look like the Africa, and that's an issue that I have had.
Mhm.
And when it was like, oh well, whatever, and then I know a couple weeks ago I talked about the that little deal I found that was 3D printed that you can go back and find in our show notes,
Mhm.
where we had the red dot fix for parallax, but running those things where you had that little bit of an issue and it was always like, oh, it's not a bright crisp dot. They weren't good, but they're not really good for that far out, but now I've used them routinely out to 300 meters, and they are a very solid option, especially for someone that never plans to do anything, especially beyond, like 150 or 200 meters.
Oh, 100%.
Then they're a very, very, very viable option. And I can't think of many things better for a PCC.
A PCC or a 10.5-inch AR, man. Just anything in that 200 and down range, I think it's a fantastic option, especially in the pistol caliber AR rifles. Sorry, AR pistol caliber, pistol length ARs. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. I think
Rifle
they're
caliber
fantastic.
pistols.
Huh?
Sorry, rifle caliber pistols.
Yeah, that one. Whatever. So yeah, no, anything like your Ruger Chargers or your MPX pistols. They're solid little guns and a red dot running on those. Fantastic at 25 meters. You're capable of going out to 100 easy then. And
Yep. Well, it's even your 16-inch, ARs.
oh yeah,
I mean, I have a red dot on my 300 blackout because all it shoots is subsonics, and I don't shoot that far with it.
yeah. I mean that's
And
why I run on my competition gun. It's a red dot, a Romeo 5 actually. It's a fantastic sight.
I have. Oh, I got to think what all the red dots I have are. So I have a handful of them. For years, I ran a primary arms micro red dot
Yep.
on my PCC. Then I have a Vortex on my 300 blackout. My beautiful wife has a Vortex on her 16-inch rifle, and I have an EOTech on one. I just sort of Swamp Fox on. Well, I have a Swamp Fox on my PCC, and I have a Swamp Fox on that dirty communist rifle that never runs.
Yeah.
But one of the other things a lot of people will have an issue with, as with red dots, is people buy red dots and they look at them and they go, "Oh, all right, sweet, this is the Gucci factor. These are what we have," and it's we could go through the entire history of them, but I don't think anyone really wants me to go down that rabbit hole. It's suffice to say, in the year 2000, they became around for good because the U.S. Army purchased them, like in large scale from Aimpoint, who, I guess they did make the original one, to, put out on their rifles. And I have shot the original ones, and they had a duck bill that attached to the carry handle. So you'd screw in this deal to the carry handle, and it came out the front, and then above the delta ring and handguard, it had like just enough room to mount an aim point CCO, the Mark 68 they're called, and you put it up and you'd look through the rear peep sight on the charging handle, and then in front of it, like between it and the front sight, there would be a red dot.
Oh boy.
Let's see if I can find a picture of that for you.
That sounds like a lot going on there. You might have to pull it up for our viewing audience, because that seems like that's overcomplicated. The way you described it.
It's not that it's overly complicated. It's just a very different way of doing it, and when they had them mounted, it was just kind of a goofy version, and it was a fix, just like oh hey, we can fix it with this, and a second, I have to find the right one because there's a handful of different ones that were out there,
Of course.
many imitated but never duplicated.
So while you're looking that up, in your opinion, because I know you do run both or did at one time, what would you prefer on a gun? Would you prefer a red dot, or would you like the holographic, or do you really not see a difference between the two?
So me personally, all right, I'm going to share this quick with you so you can see. I have one holographic, and I almost traded it to do another red dot. So if you see this here,
Holy cow!
it has a screw that went in here, and then it had a stabilizing screw that went around this, and then this is not an original sight to this, but this is the correct. We call them a duckbill.
Wow, you should screen grab that for Instagram, because that is just ridiculous.
Well, I can do better than screen grab. I know where a handful of those still are.
Oh, that hurt my eyes.
Up until last year, there were people still qualifying with those for the military.
Wow. By choice?
No.
Okay. That makes me feel a lot better. Let me go get the old girl out real quick. What is that, Grandpa?
No, you hand it to some of the new kids and they go, what is this? Is a rifle. It shoots fine. No, so there were some very odd ways of doing that, but one of the handiest things about red dots and one of their biggest benefits is, as we said, I've run both, and I have one holographic sight, which again we could do a whole nother episode just on holo sights.
We could,
but I have a lot of red dots. Like I even have red dots mounted to my handguns.
Yeah, you do.
I have 3 of those.
Yeah, you got into it, man. I could never do it. I tried. It wasn't for me. I released them back into the wild and let them go find better homes.
Yep, it took there's a large training curve to doing it with a handgun.
There is. I know you do this with the handgun when the red dots. You shoot with both eyes open. You do that with rifle as well?
Yes. So that's what I was just going to get into. Is one of the biggest benefits of the red dot is it is parallax free. So parallax free means you don't have to adjust it for distance. Like with a magnified rifle scope, you have to do adjustments and ostensibly focus.
Yeah.
For what distances you're going to be at. Now, with a red dot, you don't have to do that because you're just looking at a dot. And when you do that, The primary way you should be shooting a red dot is a little different than how you should be shooting a rifle optic or a prism optic, and probably even a hollow. Like hollow's not as much because you can shoot a hollow the same way you shoot a red dot,
Yeah.
and that is when you're shooting a red dot, you should be doing target focused shooting.
Okay.
So when you're shooting when you're shooting anything with traditional iron sights, what you do is you look out, when you focus on the sights and you focus on the front sight post, and you're looking at the target, and this is specifically for like how to get greater accuracy in bullseye shooting. You have your front sight or your sight here and your ears back here, and I'll get it lined up on the camera somehow. And this is what you should be focusing on. This. It's weird working backwards from a mirror,
No,
but
it's great for audio podcasting too.
yep. But no, you should be focusing on. Everyone's always said, "Oh, focus on the front sight post. Focus on the front sight post." Well, in reality, everyone's going to focus on the target anyway,
Mm-hmm.
because that's where your attention is. And it's if you're doing NRA bullseye shooting and you know where the target is and everything. Yep, 100%. You definitely focus on the front sight, and you make everything work like that. But if you're especially doing like practical shooting or combat shooting or however you want to do it, 3-gun, you're going to be focusing on the target and looking where that goes. So if you're looking at it with both eyes, you bring the gun up and you bring the sight up into your plane of vision. And then after you get that cheek weld, bam, that's where that dot or you fire where that dot goes. And target focus shooting is what the red dot was designed for, because it allows you to shoot faster and shoot with both eyes open. Because your eye will grow fatigued if you're trying to look at it like the old duplex reticle on a lot of scopes where you just have the straight crosshairs looking through. So if you try and focus and look at that dot and really get that dot in focus on the target, your eye will actually grow fatigued faster than it will by doing anything else, because you're staring into a damn light. But the other thing red dots don't do is they don't project the dot past the sight.
Okay.
Like if you have your red dot on,
Yeah.
you have it zeroed in,
Yep.
and you go, okay, I've got it. And then you put your hand in front.
Yep.
It doesn't put a red dot on it, on your hand.
Yeah.
So it is not a laser scope.
Yes.
There are certain people who believe that they are,
Really?
and that is okay.
Okay.
They're just uneducated. And no, they like, oh no, I want that red dot. And, oh, okay, well here's a red dot for you. And they go, no, I want it on the wall. No, it's a laser that does that. Well, give me that laser scope then. No, that's not a thing.
I mean, they do have lasers you can mount on pictated rails, absolutely. But I think that's lazy shooting.
Well, and nobody ever really zeroes their lasers to be where they're supposed to be. I shouldn't say nobody. Many people don't zero their lasers to where they're supposed to be. They put them on and they're like, whoo, yeah, I got it here. And I have found they rarely work as well as people think they do.
Yeah, I've only owned one laser my whole life. I had it on a 22 Smith & Wesson M&P, and that was fun. It was at 25 yards. It was a fantastic little gun, but I mean, it was a nostalgic movie thing. The bad guys sweep in the room, and you see the lasers, the red and green lasers come on. You're like, John Wick, right? But no.
No. Doesn't work that way.
Not at all.
No, there's long been an argument in the self-defense community about like lasers mounted on handguns and things of that nature, and whether or not they're viable, and are there any good. and there's only been like one use case where people can like come up with a legitimate reason that, man, I wish I would have had a laser on.
Yeah.
And it's when you're like ducked down behind something and have to reach over, but can poke your head around and kind of see where you're.
Some Wild West stuff there. Yeah.
Yeah. It was one of those, like, if you're in a movie theater and you're ducked down, and I'm like, if I'm in a movie theater, I need to be moving.
Yeah.
But no, so we touched a little bit on target focus shooting. We touched a little bit on parallax.
Mm.
You do shoot them with both eyes open.
Yes.
You do shoot them, at kind of all distances. 25 meters is the kind of the gold standard to zero a red dot in, especially for an M16 or for an AR. And there's one more thing. One more thing I was going to come back to.
Okay.
We might get some emails for this one, because I might rustle some jimmies.
Okay.
So to all of our listeners who were in the military at one point or another, one, happy Veterans Day, because this will be released on Veterans Day, or by Veterans Day, because we were recording this on the Marine Corps birthday. And so happy birthday to the biggest best batch of crayon eaters I know. And one of the worst travesties to ever hit the training market for, well, especially the Army, was the advent of the lollipop.
Explain.
So the lollipop, or lollipopping. So I've already said, that you had that duck bill that came out front that you would mount, it went in front of your carry handle that you mounted the red dot to.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had your front sight post still there. And, like on an M4 that has a removable carry handle and, a buoy, a backup iron sight that you would flip up, you still have your front sight post up. And so you mount your red dot and you're looking through it, and yes, you can still see the front sight post. So there is a quick combat zero that you can do to a red dot.
Okay.
You can slave the red dot to your iron sights, which means you look through your iron sights and then you just adjust your red dot down to where it's just on top of the front sight post.
Yep.
So it looks like a lollipop.
Okay.
If you don't have the rear sight, you don't lollipop. And everybody, it was one of those where it was a very fast way to get you closest and on target. It was the fastest way to go, yep, this is super fast, do it this way. And then people will try and do it, or if they don't have their gun set up the right height, it's one of my biggest training hurdles in training soldiers, is getting them to stop lollipopping. Either that, or they want to run the red dot all the way in the very bottom edge of for a co-witness and a bottom third co-witness, instead of running it in the center.
I've never heard that before.
Oh, that's a very common thing to run into in military circles.
Huh.
They want to run it like that because they still want to use the iron sights, because now instead of having a red dot optic, they have electronically enhanced iron sights, and they're still focusing on the front sight and not using the red dot the way it was designed to be used. So lollipopping, if you're still trying to lollipop all of your sights, you're wrong. That bottom third co-witness was designed to be used, and you'll still see that listed some places when they talk about mounts. Absolute co-witness or bottom third co-witness. Absolute co-witness means that it is 100% in the same line as your red dot for your backup iron sights. So it'd be like a low mount.
Yeah.
and then you'll see some advertised as bottom third. And bottom third mounts means that you will be able to look through the bottom third of the red dot and use your iron sights. Which one of the benefits of the red dot is, as you talked about the issues with them, or well, we've talked a lot about benefits and things like that. Now I'm talking about mounts and sights. There are a lot of people who, for a lot of years, said if you had a red dot, you had to have irons on your rifle still.
Yeah.
And when you did the bottom third, it was the irons would be in the bottom third of it, so you could still look above them and do your red dot. But when your battery died, you could still use your iron sights.
Okay.
Without removing your optic. I know you've seen me do that before at a competition.
Yes, I have.
Pop sights up and away we go. And that's where having the ability to have the backup sights, the backup iron sights is very important in some cases. Now, most of the time you're never going to need that.
Yeah.
Especially for the average shooter, but that is one of the inherent benefits of red dots is if there's no battery, it's just a glass tube that you can see through.
Pretty much at that point, yeah. It'd be neat someday if they made a prism red dot, just for my benefit. It'd be sweet, but it would really.
Well, they already kind of do.
Well, they do, but I haven't. I just want a black little dot in the red dot that lights up.
Well, one of our sponsors has almost that exact thing.
Almost.
Yep. Because I know that.
Oh, he's going to pull it up. He's doing new things.
I don't know what you're talking about. While we have such great air here, I get distracted because I'm doing other things. Some of the 1X stuff that you're seeing out there is ostensibly a prism red dot. Now, prisms are way different than red dots. Because a prism optic is a optic that uses a prism to refract light through it.
Yes.
And then it will have an etched glass reticle that would be on there that might be like a dot in a donut, or it might be, 100 other things. And that is just what the reticles look like. But
now I'm on the same site you're on currently. Which optic are we looking at here?
The Primary Arms SLX 1X micro prism. So that is a 1X, and it is a dot and a circle.
Oh, where'd it go? I just missed it.
This is green.
Can you screen share that with people so they can see that at home?
I sure can.
Perfect. No.
So, as you can see, it has a circle and a dot and then a couple black hash marks underneath.
Yep.
But that is about as close as you can get to a prism red dot.
Yep, that's there it is.
So, yes, the prisms and red dots are both great, but they're two very, very different things.
Which would you rather run?
What's that?
Which would you rather run? Because I know you run both of those as well.
Again, depends on application.
Okay, fair enough.
Like that, of course, that's my default answer for everything.
All right, you're clearing a house. What are you gonna run?
If I was doing that where I was doing direct action work, I would most likely be running a red dot or a hollow optic. But I mean, let's be real here. If I was going to clear a house other than my own,
Yes.
what I'm going to be using to clear it is a PEC 14
Okay.
because it'll be dark,
Fair.
and I'll be from House Green Eyes, and I will be just at that point using a laser.
Oh, geez.
There are very limited scopes when they work, but when you're the only one who can see them, they're amazing.
Oh, that's too good. Too good.
Yeah, no, but realistically, for most of the stuff around, and like I keep a rifle with a hollow for my bedside rifle at home.
Yeah.
No, it's I've got an AR with an EOTech, and that's what I run at home. My wife has an AR with a red dot that she runs at home, and it's because that is what she is far more familiar with than anything else, and she actually shoots it very, very well.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm running a one-time prism right now next to my bed. So
Yeah,
do what makes you comfortable, right?
yeah, exactly. And no, so that's just one of those where I know we squirreled a couple times, and I only went down like 5 or 6 rabbit holes there.
Yeah, but they were fine. They answered a lot of questions, I feel.
And but we will come back again and talk about magnifiers more at a different time. And maybe we'll see if we can't get someone on to talk about hollows with us.
That would be good. Someone who's a little bit more knowledgeable than you and knows a lot more than me.
It's one of those like I might not be a smart man. No, and I just haven't. I haven't done a lot with the holographic market just because. Well, one, it's historically a higher entry point optic to get into.
Yeah,
You know, you're gonna be spending $400 minimum on one.
and then they just go up from there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so I was like, oh, I don't know, and when I won an EOTech in a raffle, and I was like, this thing's kind of neat,
That works. Yeah.
and I want to play with this and get used to it and figure out how to run it. Okay, did that. Back to LPVOs.
You bet.
Oh, all right. Well, do you have anything more, Garth?
Well, not on red dots. It's a new thing to me. I mean, I'm slowly getting into them. So down the road, maybe more. But yeah, for now, nothing on our main topic. But as far as us, as far as that goes, if they get on the Radio Firearms Network, they can find our links to a whole bunch of stuff like our Teesprings app and our affiliate sponsors with Primary Arms and Palmetto State and My Medic and Facts and Firearms. If they need to reach out to us, they can find us on Facebook, AR-15 Podcast, or Instagram, AR-15 Podcast 2.0. If you guys want to reach out and yell at me for my lack of knowledge or praise Dooley for his just continuous knowledge of ARs and all that goes with them, you can email us AR15podcast 2.0 at gmail.com.
Or tell me I'm wrong because I do occasionally get some facts mixed up.
If you do, I missed it.
Or if you want to start an argument with me about lollipopping.
Yeah, don't totally do that. That'll be fun. I'll watch that in the email all day long.
Because I'm right.
Yeah, so beyond that, I think I'm just gonna go happy trails until we meet again. You got anything to finish up with?
I don't this week. I know that Again, no one's really looking for a podcast to be recording and ending at somewhere around noon Eastern time, but we will be getting back to our regular scheduled broadcasts a little bit later on here. And with that, you already said happy trails, but I'm still not singing.
That's fair. Fine. I'll get you
So,
someday.
you guys out there, you stay safe and stay armed.